Well, when I first moved here in 2010, I moved into a Duluth neighborhood. My neighbors on one side of me are Malaysian Vietnamese. My neighbors on the other side of me are South Korean. Behind me is a family from South Asia, India. Across the street, there's a family from Zimbabwe. At the end of the cul-de-sac, there's a doctor from Puerto Rico. Across the street from them is a three-generation family from Nigeria. And none of those people groups were in my church in 2010. And I just had made the decision that in order for me to reach my neighbors, in order for me to reach the community, we were going to have to kind of crack the cultural code. We were going to have to figure out, how do we become a cross-cultural family of faith across language barriers, across cultural barriers, in order to meet the needs of our local community.
Hey, look out. It's Faith Talk Today. I'm Rick Probst. Hope you're having a wonderful Atlanta weekend. Thank you so much. My amazing producer, Ezra Ortiz. He's got kind of a new title. He's a Gabby Award winning person, not for producing, although he's amazing, but for production commercials. He just won that this last weekend. So congratulations. We are blessed to have Ezra on the show. Hey, we're blessed to talk to Pastor Mark Hearn. We're going to talk to him in a second. He's the lead pastor of the First Baptist Church in Duluth. And this church has been around a while, since 1886. He's been there for, I think he said 14 years. We're going to talk to him about his congregation. It is a multicultural congregation, 55 different countries represented. We're going to hear his story, how that happened, and where these guys are going. But first, thank you so much for downloading our podcast. You guys are amazing. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And if you haven't downloaded a podcast, you can do it wherever you get your podcast, or go to FaithTalkAtlanta.com. All right, Pastor Mark, how are you?
Doing great this morning. Thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks for being a part of the show. I love your story. You're also an author of 2 books. We may get time to talk about that. If we don't talk about that on this show, on this episode, we'll get you back and we'll find out more, because we're just going to really scratch the surface on your story. All right, 14 years. You're at First Baptist in Duluth. Was it a multicultural congregation then, or how did this all happen?
No, it was a pretty culturally monogamous kind of congregation. When I came here in 2010, 99% Anglo, suburban church in the northern suburbs of Atlanta.
Yeah.
But yet one of the fastest diversifying communities in all of America. Duluth is in Gwinnett County, which has now been declared the 5th most diverse county in the United States.
And Duluth, I mean, there's been a lot of growth in Duluth. I used to live in Lawrenceville. I live in Loganville now. I'm over on the way east, but we would go through Duluth, and Duluth just exploded in growth. It's very nice over there. So how did this happen? Did you see it happening, or did it just happen? And how have you adjusted, and your congregation adjusted to this? Because let me tell you, I mean, a church has 55 countries represented, that might even be like herding cats. I'm not sure. How'd you do that?
Well, when I first moved here in 2010, I moved into a Duluth neighborhood. My neighbors on one side of me are Malaysian Vietnamese. My neighbors on the other side of me are South Korean. Behind me is a family from South Asia, India. Across the street, there's a family from Zimbabwe. At the end of the cul-de-sac, there's a doctor from Puerto Rico. Across the street from them is a three-generation family from Nigeria. And none of those people groups were in my church in 2010. And I just had made the decision that in order for me to reach my neighbors, in order for me to reach the community, we were going to have to kind of crack the cultural code. We were going to have to figure out, how do we become a cross-cultural family of faith across language barriers, across cultural barriers, in order to meet the needs of our local community.
Now we're talking with Pastor Mark Hearn. He's the lead pastor of First Baptist Church. He's getting ready to celebrate 15 years as the lead pastor. I think you said, did you say the longest tenure or the second longest if you go 15?
My understanding is if I make it 2 weeks past 15, I'll be the longest tenured pastor in the history of the church.
Well, congratulations. And congratulations on taking a congregation to adjust to this, because no doubt this was not an easy transition, right? I mean, anytime there's change in a congregation, it can cause cause waves, right?
That's correct. And there has been upheaval, but yet it has been embraced by the vast majority. And people who live in this community want to minister to this community. And as the community has changed, the church has now changed with it.
And isn't that the heart of God, Pastor? I mean, really.
Believe with all my heart. People come here, they express the uniqueness of our church. Just this past Sunday, we had first-time visiting families from Niger, from Venezuela, from Ecuador, from Korea, from Japan, from Taiwan, and think that little touch of heaven every time you set foot in our facilities.
80% of the members born outside of the U.S. there at the church, the folks that stuck with you and have gone through this transition, God bless them and for answering the call and doing this, because this is really what the gospel is all about, right?
I believe that with all my heart, and I'm incredibly grateful for leadership that has stuck with us through this transition process.
Pastor Mark Hearn is the pastor of First Baptist in Duluth, and you may be thinking, does he have translators? Well, yes, there are folks that have to wear headsets, live language interpreter, 7 major languages. If you've ever seen the United Nations, you'll see, I mean, you've got so many folks that do not speak English, and of course, some that speak English can't understand other languages. So they've got headsets with interpreters. That's what goes on there so that they can hear the message. How was that for you to minister to so many different languages, even though you've got the technology to do it? Was there an adjustment for you? Your message, how you deliver your message?
There has been an adjustment. I try to think a lot along the lines of elementary English students. Try not to give illustrations or use words that would be difficult to understand. But if you do, to take the opportunity to explain them. Same thing with colloquialisms, things that are a part of your vernacular of everyday life, but you realize that for English being a second language for a great number of people in the congregation, being able to explain those colloquialisms so that you communicate effectively.
Good on you, Pastor. Years ago, I preached in Africa and in India, 2 separate times back in the 90s. And I use a lot of colloquialisms and stories, and I found that I guess I didn't read the book before I went. I mean, here I am, an American pastor, preacher, preaching in another country, and it's like, oh my gracious, I should have done my homework. But good on you for doing that so successfully. You're the author of 2 books that talks about multicultural evangelism. Was it strong? And you mentioned that the folks around you in your neighborhood, it sounds like you just had relationships with these people, were just yourself, and just hung out with them and ministered to them in some form or fashion.
One of the things that missionaries who are going on the mission field are taught is to develop a relationship with what they call a person of peace, someone who can coach them about the culture so that they can be effective in reaching that culture group in the community. And so I began to seek out persons of peace, people whom would teach me about Indian culture, teach me about African, Nigerian culture, teach me about Hispanic culture, so that I could be effective in reaching those people in the life of our community.
Very wise. Wise man you are. Pastor Mark Hearn, the lead pastor at First Baptist Church in Duluth. Do you have other pastors that come to you, Pastor, and say, hey, look, I'm kind of in the same scenario. we have a multicultural community, and I really want to reach these folks. Do you have that happen to you?
Frequently. And matter of fact, I have several speaking engagements over the next 2 to 3 months where I'm going and speaking with associational missionaries or with local pastor groups to be able to tell our story. We call it the Technicolor story. My first book entitled Technicolor, second book entitled Hearing in Technicolor, but telling the transition process that was made, some best practices, lessons learned, and things to avoid, things to prepare yourself for, so that pastors can be prepared for that transition process.
Pastor Mark Hearn with us. Pastor, where can you get those books? Amazon?
They're available on Amazon. We have them available in our cafe here at the church if you live local, but Amazon is the best place to find them.
Thank you so much for your hard work and just your wisdom on doing that. Just a thought from me, the style of music. How do you do that? I mean, when you mess with people's music, right? You're treading you're treading on ice at times. But here you have so many countries represented. How do you guys do that?
Well, we sing in different languages. We sing in Spanish. We sing in Korean occasionally. We will sing in multiple different languages. But one of the things that we have found is that a lot of people from different portions of the world sing hymns, very familiar hymns, to our English congregations. And so we provide several translations up on the screens as we're singing things that are familiar. And it provides opportunities for people to connect within the worship setting. We also read the Bible in different languages. So it's not uncommon for us to give public reading of God's word in a different language on Sunday morning.
We're talking with Pastor Mark Hearn, lead pastor, First Baptist Church in Duluth. And we have a lot of pastors that listen to the show, watch the show, and listen to the station. Hey, would love for you guys, you have the same heart, check out his books and check out the website, duluthbaptist.org, to find out more, because this is not an isolated thought or vision. It's happening all over. And again, this is my thought. This is God's heart. It's really, really, really cool. I got to wonder, do you guys, back in the day, right? We brought, everybody brought a meal and sat down together and ate. What did we call that? Gosh, it's been so long. I had a senior moment. Potluck. Do you guys have that? And I can imagine, if you do, can you imagine the different slices of food that you would get? It would be amazing.
We actually do a cultural celebration every month.
Wow.
One of the things I very early learned that in almost every culture other than in American culture, church was a place where you went and spent the day, oftentimes bringing your lunch. And I would have people from different countries during the after church pastor meet and greet would say, where's the lunch being served? Not realizing that was very typical for almost every culture other than American. So every month we celebrate a different culture group, and it allows us to be able to cross cultures and to be able to celebrate with each other. You don't have to check your culture at the door. In January, we celebrate Tres Reyes Magos, Three Kings Day, Spanish celebration of Christmas, of the coming of the kings. February, we celebrate East Asian New Year. Over half the world celebrate New Year on the lunar calendar rather than the solar calendar. The first day of spring in March, we celebrate Nowruz, Persian New Year. In April, of course, is Easter. In May, we celebrate African Unity Sunday, celebrating over 12 different African nations that are a part of our membership. In July, we celebrate the 4th of July, American Independence Day, but we celebrate everyone who became a U.S. citizen in the past year. So it allows us to be able to celebrate cross-culturally our American culture. In August, we celebrate Indian Independence Day, August the 15th. We have a large group of South Asian Indian people. In September, we celebrate Island Sunday, We have people from a number of different Caribbean islands, allows us to be able to celebrate alongside of them. And in October, we decided of an American celebration, we have a tailgate Sunday and celebrate our local high school football teams. So God just is bringing us together to be able to cross our cultural barriers.
Pastor Mark Hearn, lead pastor at First Baptist Church in Duluth. Pastor, we're running out of time. Well done. I love this. We got to have you back and talk more. You can find out more at duluthbaptist.org. Hey, just show up and find out on the website when they're having those special Sundays. Get ready to eat and bring something. It would be really, really cool. Again,
by the way, our next one is the end of this month, September 29th, Spanish Heritage Sunday.
Ooh, sounds good. Thank you so much, Pastor. Looking forward to talking to you again. God's blessings to you and your team and your congregation, as well as your family. Well, that's it. What a great guest. Again, duluthbaptist.org is a great place to go to and check out the books if you're a pastor, or how about some for your pastor? That would be a good thing to do. Get yours at Amazon. Next week, another great guest. Thank you so much for this one. My award-winning producer, Ezra Ortiz, a Gabby Award winner. He hasn't even seen the trophy yet. We got to get that to him. Anyway, thank you very much. We're going to have a great guest next week. And have a great week. I'm Rick Probst. This is Faith Talk Today. See ya.